Hello everyone, welcome to this demonstration. Today I will be painting a lovely coastal California landscape scene, and it's going to be, of course, our preferred time of day, which is the golden evening hour. I have penciled in a pretty dark way some seabirds flying into the distance. There's lots of texture, lots of layers, and lots of perspective in this piece. And I've got a really good idea of what I'm doing. There's not going to be a lot of adjustment happening on the painting. Everything is very well thought out, planned out. The composition, the direction of light, everything is planned. There are 2 reference images that I'm going to be using, and they're available for you to look at on the Art Community Discord, and all the links are in the description. I'm going to get started with our very typical gold warm underpainting and our large soft filbert brush. Quite a bit of water is going to be loaded into the brush, and I'm going to start with the darker values of the painting, which are going to be the foreground with the little flowers in it. They're pink flowers because I'm still painting pink in my paintings until February 15th. That was my commitment. Pretty easy thing to live up to, though. I'm going to include a couple different ice plants just for texture and to break up some of the space. I love the way the Coastline mountains really hug these coastal compositions. They just like really make a nice frame for the rest of the painting. There's some eroding sand dunes and berms there coming down onto the beach. A couple little rocks, nothing too serious. Okay, now we have the ocean, and then the lightest values are left. And what I'll do is I'll put quite a bit of water on the brush, and I'll just lightly go over what is left over. And that'll just get it really light yellow, light gold. And our paper is pretty well covered. And that already looks like we've been working on this for a while, but it went really quick, and that has to do with the brush and just moving the angles of the brush and following what we already had planned. And this will do us an incredible service in the steps coming up next. So I'm just going to go ahead and work from back to front on this painting because there's so much stuff going on. It's going to be easier if we do the sky, then the mountains, then the ocean, and then come forward. Of the two reference photos, I feel like this one has the more interesting sky colors. I'm going to grab our small filbert brush and just a touch of cadmium red with cadmium yellow. That's going on the horizon line. Now I'm going to fade it up into just yellow. Try to make that gradient pretty smooth. I'm going to add some white. It really is a small area, so it's not going to be super challenging to blend because nothing's going to dry that fast in such a small space, which is nice. Just going horizontal strokes back and forth and then cutting into the clouds that are going to be right there. I'm going to add some of this yellow up here. Now I'm going to take some white, put it halfway between the white and the cerulean blue, touch the cerulean blue just a little bit, and without cleaning out my brush at all, because I don't need to. It has a little bit of that yellow in it, and that doesn't bother me at all. I'm going to paint in between the clouds here. Unintentionally annihilated that guy. Gonna clean him up a little bit just so I can see the form. Gonna add just a little bit more white to that color. A little bit more blue. That was a lot more blue. It's okay, you can just pull more white down. Because we're moving away from the sun, so it's going to be a little darker blue. Okay. Pretty happy with the blue parts of the sky, although actually no, there's a little bit more right here, and I like that in that reference image. Maybe a little bit lighter because it's closer to the sun spot, which is off camera. I imagine a bit off to the left of our scene. Okay, now I cleaned that blue off the paintbrush pretty well. And I'm going to get a melon color. So I'm going to add some white to our orange. Possibly add a little bit more red. Yep, okay, now I'm going to dry brush some cloud shapes. I'm going to be adding another layer of these, so this is not quite going to cover up some really light pencil lines. I'm rotating the brush a lot to get different shapes. I'm going to drag the pink up further than I intend to put it because I am going to overlap purple just right onto it. Added a little bit of white to help cover and also to give a little bit of dimension. That's going to be it for the pinks, except for what I overlap onto the purple later over here. This is a really, really blue purple. It's not intense at all. So I'm going to come right off the cerulean blue, add just a touch of magenta, and a little bit of our red. Some white to lighten that up, and I'm just going to play with that color a bit until I see something that is convincing. And since already our image is straying away from our reference photo, or inspiration photo, if you will, I'm trying to pay more attention to what is correct for our painting and less so much being totally accurate to the photograph. A little bit more cerulean blue and white over this part of the cloud mass. But I am seeing a little bit of paint lifting, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that area alone until it is completely dry. So I'll just keep on bringing this purple color over to where we laid down some pink clouds already. Grab more white, just a little bit lighter. Because all these colors are going to be lighter as we move towards our sun area. Okay, now that we're over near the pink, I grabbed a little bit of water on the brush just to make this purple a little bit more transparent, and then I'm going to drag it onto the back side of the pink clouds. And then I'll wipe it off, and I will just lightly scrub one of the edges, the inside edge of that purple. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the pink color. And I am going to overlap. Okay, I'm just really dry brushing a lot right in there. Just lightly putting that pink color over our further away purple clouds.
Oh my, this is a noisy world.
Okay, I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to this cloud that is closest to the sun. I'm just going to brighten it up a bit. That'd be a little bit brighter than the other pink clouds, and then I'm going to take that yellow color, I'm going to dance it onto the front of these clouds here. Making them a little lighter and a little brighter. Okay, that's pretty good. I like what that's doing. I think what I'll do next is I'll just put a little bit of negative shapes of the sky in between some of these clouds because they got pretty fluffy.
numbers in our society. And
I really like this step. I think this step really gives the sky glitter. It really feels like the light is breaking through. And this will draw attention to our little bird shapes. Trying to remember to go darker the further we go away from that sunspot. Maybe not that dark though. It's okay, we'll use plenty of that color when we get to the sea. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. That glows pretty nicely. You know, while we're up here, and since we don't want to have to bother with it later, and I know those birds are so small, let's just get that out of the way. I'm taking the gold of our underpainting and the ultramarine blue and making like the tiniest pile of paint. Adding enough water to our brush for control. And I'm gonna try to get that tip pretty darn sharp. Because these be tiny shapes. I would not recommend breathing while doing stuff like that. It's intense. Yes, I drink coffee. Definitely no breathing, definitely no talking while that kind of nonsense is happening. I'm going to use my flat brush. We're going to tackle those mountains now. Now, they're greenish, but it's like warm green. It's like really warm. Hardly reads as green to me, honestly. I'm going to take the cerulean blue and put some red in it. That's going to give us a really muted purple color that's going to work for all the shadows that are in these mountains, all of these areas. It just works. That's a good color for that. Making sure that the brush strokes that I'm using make sense. Okay, now that green color, it's really not very green at all, honestly. It's kind of like an orange. It's glowing with the warmth of that setting sun. So I did make a yellow green with the cadmium yellow and the cerulean blue, and then I added some red to it. This is just going to go on lightly. Do my best to follow my line work that I have, because that sky is done as long as we don't screw it up. Overlapping that shadow color I put down. This gold underpainting is doing a lot of work for us right now. Because all these little variations are just looking very purposeful. Got a little oopsie right here. I just grabbed a brush, went into the clean water, and I'm gonna kind of try to scrub it away. Oh, good. Don't want that to flip over the sky like that. Great. Okay, as I'm coming down to these little hills closer to the shoreline, I'm lightening up that color. I put a little bit more red in it too. Put a little bit of white in it just now for opacity as well. So I'm adding little tiny impressionistic lines to give this mountain more dimension. Overlapping all the colors that are on it to just make it feel more at home, make it feel like all the colors belong there. More yellow, more red. Overlapping the color I just put down and coming to the tops of these dunes, getting all of that. And that's going to come down here. I do want this to be all darker, but I'm going to put this color in first and then make it darker over it, over this, all that. Alright, now the purple is right next door for me. And I'm going to go right over what I just painted. With some horizontal brush strokes, creating some shadows. Okay, I feel like that's good. These are the dunes that are in the far, far back, using vertical brush strokes there. Okay. I didn't completely cover where the erosion, the dirt erosion is happening, just a little bit. I think with a smaller brush towards the end, I'll highlight a couple spots there with thicker paint to make them look like they're really catching the setting sun, like that golden glow. But not yet, not yet. The sand is going to be really close to what we have here. All you'll have to do is just touch the red and the yellow ever so lightly, and then put some white there. Pretty small amount of paint, and just drag it, horizontal brush strokes, from the cliff toward the sea. It's giving that sand some dimension, incorporating it into the shadows of the bluffs a bit. Okay, now I'm going to stop messing with that. We're going to go to the ocean with the same paintbrush, so I'm going to rinse it out pretty good. Now I'm going to use all the colors that are in the sky, but it's not a direct reflection because, you know, there's a lot of movement, a lot of shadow that happens in the sea because there's so much of the dimension of the waves is breaking up the light. So it's a lot darker and there's a lot more blue, even though there's a lot of yellow happening in the sky. But there will be yellow. Okay, now I grabbed some yellow and white, but without cleaning anything off. And I'm just kind of moving that around the area. Grab some clean water. Grabbing a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I'm going to make a darker value for the ocean, but I don't want it to be super saturated. I want it to be a little bit muted. So I'm going to grab our red, just a little bit. And then some white, instead of just using cerulean, and that'll be less saturated for sure, and that'll let us pop the waveforms. Okay, I'm going to take this blue, the darkest value of the ocean, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that color here into the shadow on this hill. And that just helps bring the color into the painting. It's a nice shadow color. It'll be in this dark flower bed as well. There's plenty of time for that. Okay, back to the ocean. Horizontal brush strokes, overlapping and underlapping the colors that we've put down here. leaving colors. And I might put some pink in there. That seems like a lot on my paintbrush, so I just wiped some of that off. I'm just going to lightly place that a couple places here, just around in the water. Going to clean the brush out, and I'm just going to blend what I put in. Okay. There's a couple waves coming up onto shore, and I don't want that to be like super white. So there is going to be, this is like a purple gray, like a warm purple gray. Okay, so the closer that sea foam gets to the beach, the wider it's going to be. I'm also going to be using some of that warm purple gray to show the edges of each of these. I guess they're where a wave just was. It's like a wave ghost. That right there is the top of the crest of a wave coming in, and then there's another one too I had planned. It got lost, but that's okay. It can be there. That's fine. I'm using really thick paint to convey these shapes. Okay, may as well just hit those rocks real quick while I'm over here and thinking about it. I'm going to use the same color that I used on the birds, which is the gold and ultramarine blue, which ends up being like this really earthy, really muddy green. But when you put it over the gold underpainting, it's really dark. Really, really dark. Like, I'm gonna have to lighten that up. That's a little much. Just add a little bit of orange and a little bit of white to that. Get some sort of sunset glow brown. And just the sun side of those rocks. I definitely don't want them to be the darkest thing on the whole painting. That's too weird. It's weird, they're getting weird. Now there's more rocks, or you know it's just going to be a painting of rocks. I'm going to try to scrub that one off, or make it smaller. Kind of get some sand on top of it. Okay, they don't bother me. I'm just going to say that and ignore them. They don't bother me, they're fine. They belong there. It's not like a body or a sea lion. It's just getting too big for its britches. I'm gonna add some of that dark color into the sand dunes and the berms. Because now we have to. No. It's time for that anyway, and that's the right color to do it with. So I'm just gonna use sketchy brush strokes. But not as sketchy as the brush strokes that made those rocks. It's a different kind of sketchy. Now I want the paint to get lighter as you go away from the foreground, because there's going to be some diffusion between you and that one back there. Like this color to be on the bottom of this. I guess it's a flower mound that's coming down onto the beach. That's okay if that's dark. There we go. Now it makes sense. I'm gonna take some white and some cadmium yellow, make like a really bright color. Then I'm gonna take the red, make a really bright orange, is what I'm hoping for. Come on. This is going to be our golden hour warmth of the sun color. Now I'm not going to go full cray with this color. I'm just kind of overlap and underlap a couple areas with it. Like what makes sense to you and how you have done this is going to be what you do, but I can't tell you where that makes sense on your painting. Just make sure it's not all over. And you can put this over a little bit of the shadow too. That'll just give it more dimension. Okay, I'm gonna wipe my brush off all the way and just kind of wipe off a couple spots. I'm gonna take that color and some water and I'm just gonna put it on the beach in a couple places. Using horizontal brush strokes, it reinforces the dimension of the sand or the form of it. Okay, now some flowers. So I have where the blossoms are going to be pretty well laid out. I like their positioning and everything. There's two different kinds of blooms. There's like a pink bloom and then kind of a blue round bloom type thing. But the foliage is all really well shadowed and it is dark. So I'm going to start by making some green that we can use in a medium and a dark color. I used the gold and the cadmium yellow. This is the lightest color green. We're not going to need very much of it. It's just going to highlight the edges in a couple places. It's a nice earthy green. Now the ultramarine blue is going to darken down our green color. can add a little bit more gold there. Dark and earthy. Dark and earthy is what we want. That's really dark. I dragged a little bit of magenta down to the very end here. Magenta, the rest of our ultramarine blue. I think I'll actually be able to clean this whole palette after I'm done with this painting. You have to rinse the sponges out to keep them from getting funky. Also, I keep my wet palettes in the refrigerator. This is our absolute darkest value. I think that might be, that's a chromatic black. I'm keeping that way down there, away. Okay, that's our colors that we're gonna need for this foliage here. And I'm gonna kind of try to paint around where the blooms are gonna be. And then I can put them on top and kind of overlap the green a bit. So I'm gonna start in the corners because they're gonna be the darkest areas. And I'm gonna try to do like modelly brush strokes, if that makes sense. Kind of giving the impression of leaves. There's gonna be a couple layers. Always trying to get those brush strokes a bit bigger the further we get away from the focal point.
West.
Okay, now that I've got all the dark colors in that I'm going to use, I'm going to use the lighter color that we have mixed, and I'm going to highlight some spots. Just near things that make sense to give the mass of flowers some dimension. And also you can use this color to fix any wonky blending that you have going on. But if you put all of that green in kind of like using a lot of stippling action that would imply some massive amount of greenery, then you're probably fine. Don't want to go too crazy with the detailing, otherwise you're kind of like stuck doing it to all of it. It's happened to all of us, I promise. Easy to get caught up in that detail. Now, what you can do is you can wipe some of them out with the darker color that you still have left over, hopefully. And we're not done with this color yet, because after we put the blossoms in, we can cut out some colors still. Okay, let's do the blue flowers first because they're easier. They're less complex. I think we can still do them with the brush that we're holding. We're going to use cerulean blue. Something close to that shadow color that we incorporated from the ocean into the mountains, I think would be appropriate. So all we did to get that color is we had cerulean blue and a little bit of cad red to make a muted, super muted purple. Oh, there it is. Boom. The perk of having very few colors on your palette is that you can just replicate them. But since you're remixing them, you're getting these subtle variations. But because we're using transparent layers of paint, you're getting subtle variations everywhere, which is my preference. Okay, I'm going to use the flat brush, but at an angle. I want kind of like this oval, multi-tiered flower. I don't know what it's called. I'm going to give them some highlights. I'm just going to use the blue and white for the highlights. I wonder if that was too much. Well, you can go back and forth with the shadow and the highlight a little bit. Kind of overlap them and underlap them with the big brush strokes so that it's not too fussy. These aren't the focal point. You're just a lovely thing that's happening in the foreground. I know some of you are thinking that the flowers are always a focal point at the very least. Fair point. added a couple little tiny ones, little buds. Okay, now we got the pink, more pink part of this painting. I'm gonna be using the medium pink that we used in the sky, of course. Now I know I'm looking at this reference photo and these actual flowers are a little bit more like magenta pink, but we're gonna take some artistic license and I'm going to be overlapping the area that we have designated for them just a little bit here and there. And I'm using a big brush on purpose. I'm trying to be purposeful and intentional with my brush strokes. So I'm trying to do these flowers in as few brush strokes as possible to keep them expressive. I think the middle is going to be fun. I'm hoping. What an incredibly complex scene that has been put together today. I'm angling the brush as I put in petals to get a couple sharper edges. And then these are not quite open all the way forms. There's 3 of them that are like that I thought would be interesting. Wasn't quite sure about that last brush stroke, so I'm gonna kind of delete that. Okay, now we need I'm gonna put the highlights in first before I put the middle. The highlights are gonna be a light, soft orange. Just gonna pick up a couple of petals on the light side of some of these blooms, not all of them, maybe the back side of this one. Maybe it's angled up that way. Okay, now, dark orange middle. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of that magenta and add that in. That's gonna give us kind of like a browned down orange. But that's about right. That's the color we're looking for. Still using that flat. I am going to pick up the round that we used earlier, number 1 round, and I'm going to make a little bit darker of a color of that brown by adding more magenta. And I am gonna shadow side of the away part of the middle of that flower blue. Gave that brush a rinse, and now I'm going to go back and blend. Don't really want it to be a hard line. The only thing left is just to touch up a little bit of the flowers. Just take a couple of those petals and make them a little bit defined with another layer of paint, pink paint. And it's going to go over that little middle part we just installed. I don't know what these flowers are called. See them. Just installing some more shadow on the flowers, the pink ones, with our big flat brush. Okay. Just adding a little bit of warmth into the dark shadows and then shadowing up some of those pink blossoms a little bit. I'm wondering if the blue ones need a little bit of shadow too, but it won't bother me too much, honestly. I think I might be getting too close to it. Yeah. Okay. That's probably fine. Okay, I'm kind of looking at the whole thing now. Looking at the whole thing. I kind of wish this color was in the bottom half of the painting. Let's just do that now. Is that about right? Yep. Trying to use really strategic brush strokes here. Just trying to incorporate it into the shadow. Hopefully it doesn't look too weird. It would be okay if that value wasn't that dark, so as dark as it is right now. Okay, I'm feeling good about that. All right, I'm not going to touch it anymore. Thank you so much for supporting my work here. And until next time, you have a happy painting.